So I want to go ahead, excuse me, and like I said, I do want to go home. No, I want to go ahead and give you guys a very super kind of demonstration on this Barber method, right? Again, we're going to get way more into it in the future. So last class, I asked a student to just pick a random celebrity. They picked Angelina Jolie, so that's what photo we're going to use. And it works out really well. She's got very defined features, which is excellent for this Barber method. So last time around, I kind of very vaguely introduced to you, that you want to kind of imagine that you've almost got this ruler. I've just got one in my hand here, but you want to kind of imagine you've got this ruler kind of virtually floating in front of you, right? And the key with the Bargue method is only straight lines. That's the key. So I'm going to literally take my ruler, and you don't have to do this, obviously. This would be done in your imagination, but I want you guys to see. I'm going to literally take my ruler and place it on my little smartboard here, and I'm just going to kind of outline any straight lines that would make up her face. And if they're not perfect, that's fine. It looks like she's got kind of a dash right there for her cheek, very pronounced kind of zygomatic bone, right? And if you overlap something, that's fine too. And notice, I'm not really worried about, like, perfection, right? Obviously, she's got, like, a curl to her lips, and there's way more detail here. I'm just placing little tiny kind of place markers, right? Where the top of her lip is, where the bottom of her lip is, and again, I'm just using my little ruler to kind of imagine where these things are, right? She's got some little nasal labial folds right there, right? Again, it's not going to look like her, I promise you that, okay? It's not going to look like her. So I'm just using my ruler. Again, I apologize, you see the backside of me right now. Oops. Just placing lines. Again, the key with the Bargue method is, is you only get to use perfectly straight lines. She's got like a part in her hair. Let's see, using this ruler is awkward. Okay. And again, it's going to be kind of chip choppy. That's absolutely fine. Again, I apologize, you're looking at that on my back here. So I'm just kind of placing as much as I can these marks. Right. Oops. So what's happening as I'm drawing here is I'm starting to think about her face as almost like a two-dimensional form, which is really quite the opposite to what we've been talking about, right? What we've been talking about is drawing in 3 dimensions, almost like the Loomis method, right? But I'm just using these straight lines to kind of place my markers. Something else that I can do too, as I'm kind of sketching along here, is think about how you can use comparative measurement. We did that in our still life, right? I could, instead of drawing, underneath kind of both eyeballs, right? What if I just draw like a line right there, just across? Again, it's not going to look like her face. That's not what we're trying to do here, right? The name of the game is to just start placing things enough so that, grab this, so that we end up with kind of a rough estimate of where her face is, right? Now, obviously, I'm tracing, but I'm going to show you how this can work in a second. So this rough estimate is really, pretty accurate, right? I traced it. It's got to be as accurate as possible. But it doesn't really look like her necessarily. But what's nice is this becomes your foundation. I can then use my knowledge from the Loomis method and from thinking about kind of adding shadow and shading and value, everything we've been talking about, thinking about the front of the face versus the side of the face, right? And knowing where kind of that shadow falls. So then I can kind of click over here. I'm just going to grab a different color real quick. So I can look at her face and I see, oh, well, the shadow's kind of, this is kind of shadow form in here. Again, I'm just kind of rough estimating. This is all in shadow. Kind of like this. Again, I'm just kind of rough. Looks like the side of her nose is kind of rough. All of this underneath her. That little snot tray. What's that snot tray called again?
Filtrum.
Filtrum. Good job. Thank you. Which lip is darker, the top or the bottom? Top. Good. Excellent. So that top lip is always going to be a little bit darker. Assuming, of course, there's always the chance that, like, if you got this kind of bottom light, then obviously that would change. But 9 times out of 10, just assume the top lip is going to be darker, right? So she's got these little kind of folds. These are her nodes on the side of her face there. Right? Again, notice that as I'm doing this round of outline, I'm just using, again, straight lines to outline where her shadow is. Right? Not coloring anything in. I'm just kind of placing some shadow. She's got shadow underneath her zygomatic bones by her cheekbones here. Very pronounced shadows. Lines kind of right here. Good little shadow underneath her chin, of course. A little bit of shadow right kind of in there. Again, I'm obviously tracing. We'll do that. We won't be tracing in real life here, but it gives you something to kind of work out of. And then, of course, her hairdo. Again, if it's not perfect, that's okay. So imagine that I take these 2 designs, right? Because in real life, I'm going to think about her shadow and her and her kind of Bargue drawing, these outlines, right? And I can take these and overlap them. Again, I would be doing all this kind of in my mind's eye a little bit, right? But pretty quickly, by thinking about the shadow and the placement of her face, I can get something that starts to vaguely resemble her. Again, there's no detail here, right? There's no detail. But very quickly, if I showed you 500 photos and this was one of them, it wouldn't take you much to go, oh, well, that's clearly what you're drawing, right? Right? So, we've got this idea, right? Again, still not perfect, but we got this idea, right? So, as you're going along with this Bargue method, right? Again, remember, straight lines is the name of the game, right? You do kind of this generic rough estimate, then go back and start placing kind of your shadows. Once you place those shadows, then all bets are off. Then you can kind of really get down into it again and start going, okay, where are the details? I got to draw the eyes again. Everything we've done in class up until now comes into play. But this foundation, shadows and this kind of Bargue kind of outline, is going to really speed up your process. Because like we talked about in class, before, I'll move her aside here real quick. Before, what we had to do was go ahead and kind of think about the cranium and like the front of the cranium, and the side of the cranium, and then the jawbone kind of comes down. And this is all good stuff. I mean, this is not bad. Excuse me. But it's more time consuming, right? There's more lines on the page, right? Okay, her nose is here, her eyes are in the middle of the head, her eyes are kind of here, right? And this style that I'm doing right now, this Loomis method, is great, kind of the shadow on the side of the face, right? But the problem is, this is much more out of my imagination. I'm not really looking at my drawing, or excuse me, at the portrait that I'm drawing. I'm kind of looking at her, looking down at my paper and saying, oh, well, her neck is kind of here, right? And her hair is kind of here, and I'm kind of guessing along the way. And you'll tell how, yeah, okay, that kind of looks like a face, but it's not necessarily her face, right? And again, we talked about before how if you mess up, you you just kind of keep drawing, or maybe you erase or something, and you can pretty soon end up with too many lines on the paper. It just gets to be this big, limey mess of junk on your page, and it gets messy and gross and pretty ugly pretty quickly, right? Now, here's my key. This is the big key with the Bargue method. If this kind of stuff doesn't make sense to you, if you're still struggling with the idea of like thinking about the cranium and the jaw kind of being separate pieces, right? If that's still struggling for you, please, I stress, don't jump into the Bargue method, okay? The problem with the Bargue method is that it does not let you draw really from your imagination, right? I'm looking off of a photo of Angelina Jolie to get this image, right? To get this picture. I can't really sit here. I'll kind of undo some of this junk here. So I can't really. Let's say I want to make up a new character, a new comic book character, right? The Loomis method really lets me kind of sketch and design and think about that anatomy, right? Come on, go away. There you go. The Loomis method really lets me sketch and kind of design. But to use this Bargue method, say I'm going to make a new comic book character, kind of like Spider-Man, but even cooler, and kind of like Deadpool, but not as cool. And I'm going to say, okay, all right, well, it's kind of these lines, and there's like a face in here, Spider-Man. No, that's not good. That's not right. It's too much. It's not enough. Whereas again, vice versa, that Loomis method that we're talking about with the spheres and everything, Loomis method is great for making up a new character, right? That Loomis method, I can say, okay, his cranium is facing here. He's facing this direction. His jaw is down over here, right? Comes up. Okay, that neck comes back. He's got a big beefy neck and a little bit of a trapezius. That's your kind of spine back there. He's got these cool kind of Spider-Man eyes, and his spider sense is tangling, right? Very, very quick with that Loomis method, we can make it happen, right? So if you're drawing from your imagination, Loomis is great. But if you're drawing from real life or from photographic reference, which is what we're literally doing in this class, as you feel more and more confident with that Loomis method, as you feel confident with drawing the sphere and the jaw and everything else, we can start playing around. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Again, like I said, this is a super short demo, but I still want to prove it to you. Okay? So let's do this. So come on. So again, I'm thinking about two things, right? I'm thinking about the red, which is kind of my initial sketch, and I'm thinking about then once I do the initial sketch to kind of place my shadows, right? And that would give me an estimate, something to work out, a foundation. Still not perfect, still not her, but it's a foundation, right? So let's do this. I'm going to just set those aside for a moment. Let's see. I'm going to come over here. Let's delete Angelina for a second. Let's see if I have another random celebrity picture. I really don't know if I do or not. I hope I do.
You should do Rosie.
Oh, next time. Okay, let's see. We'll do Drake again. All right. So recently I got a call on my cell phone. So it's pop culture. He called me. He did his dance. No, come on. That was like a year ago. Okay, never mind. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. No, not the stanky leg. That's a no. No. All right. Never mind. No one likes my stanky leg. All right. All right. All right. If you're watching this video, be glad that you can't see what's happening. Okay. So it just happened. All right. All right. All right. So anyway. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw Drake. Right. Here we go. Again, I'm going to go as quick as I can, so I apologize if I mess things up. Now, remember, as I'm drawing, I'm imagining, I'm not going to literally do this, but I'm imagining, right, taking this ruler, right, putting it on the screen, and kind of trying to get that straight kind of line, right? And what I'm thinking about, the best part about this Bargue method is it's not so much getting this kind of perfectly straight ruler over time, right? It's the, almost like, if you think about like science class or math class, it's the degree of that angle. Right, that's what matters. It's the degree of the angle. Because his eyes kind of come in at an angle. His eyes go out at an angle. That's what I'm trying to capture, is the degree. Is it a 45? Is it a 48? You get the idea, right? I assume you guys have done math degrees at some time. No. Protractors, right? No, get out of here. All right, so.
Mr. Kozak,
yes.
I just don't understand how you do the Bargue method without tracing over.
I'll show you right now. Good question. Very good question. Okay, so again, I'm pretending with my imagination this angle, and I can literally, if you want, I mean, you can just take a ruler. I can hold it up to a face. So I'll do this here. So I can literally hold it up to his face, right? Take this same angle. So you don't want to move your wrist, of course. Take this same angle, go over here, and draw. Right? This line is the same as this face at that degree. Right? Does that kind of make sense? Right? I'm taking that same line. So what if I did this? I'm going to get rid of you. Okay. So I'm going to look at Drake's face. I see that angle, and I kind of slice it. Right? Then starts to kind of chip in for his eyes, and I slice. Chips back out, slice. And again, if it's not perfect, who cares? We'll come back around, we'll measure again. Right? Then his forehead kind of goes up. Right? So now I've got this kind of letter M zigzag, and again, what I'm doing is basically lining it up. Well, it's too big, but you get the idea. Lining it up with that kind of crest in his face. That's what I'm trying to draw. Right? Okay. His chin is, it looks straight, but it's at a slight angle. Alright, so I want to get that angle in. I apologize for kind of standing in front of the board. Then it comes up. Right? Then I get to about here. Excuse me. His jaw comes up from there. I'm just placing lines. If they look ugly, who cares? Because they're just lines, I can erase them later. Right? So now I've got this kind of jawline in there. You can tell I definitely overlap, but who cares? That's all right. We'll say that's under here or something. That looks like another kind of straight line right about here. That's not very straight. That's straighter. No. All right. It's straight. It's fine. It's fine. All right. So now I've got what else? His ear's kind of at a little kind of point, almost like a little elf ear. Got like a little elfy ear right there, right? So let's line that up. Something in there. It's good enough for me. Good enough for government work, right? Kind of comes out, up, right? So let's see. From this point of the ear, it looks like right about here. Kind of comes out. Kind of comes up. That's not the right angle. Let's try again. All right, there. Peanut crowd in the back giving me all these comments. All right. Kind of round. I'm just going to kind of guess his head is kind of in there somewhere. All right, let's see. Looks like his shoulder comes right from his chinny chin. So we'll say whoop right there. Okay. Let's see. His neck kind of comes down and then it comes out. Something about this angle over here. Right about there looks pretty good. Right? Single, clean, straight lines, right? Let's place some other lines, right? All right, so we know his eye is kind of in here somewhere. Nose comes down. Notice that his nose doesn't quite touch his cheek in there. About there is good. Well, right there is better. Let's see. Lips, kind of here-ish. Nose, somewhere in there. And again, what's best about the Bargue method is if you draw the wrong line, who cares? Just draw another line, right? It's way better than drawing these crazy circles and squares and cubes and all this extra stuff. You mess up, just draw another one. It's all right. Okay? All right, let's see. Draw a line. See, kind of the bridge of his nose is there-ish. The nose kind of comes, so here's the nose. Kind of comes in for his eye socket. Let's just say like right there. It's kind of a shape for an eye sockety thing right there. What's another word for that eye socket? Or orbit or oculus. Yeah. Orbit would be fine. Okay, there's kind of an eyeball kind of somewhere in there. We'll find it. There's a nostril in there somewhere. Again, just straight lines, right? These guys a little beardy. Right? Right, it's in there. It's in there. Got it in there. See, he's got his well-trimmed little beard. Right. Again, just straight lines. Straight lines. He's got this nice straight cut. Down. That's all I would need.
That was good.
Right? Now here's the thing. That's not hyper accurate, right? That's not hyper accurate. But by using straight lines, that's all I did. Using straight lines. Watch this, watch this. Let's get crazy now. I'm gonna put myself on the chopping block. I'm gonna bet, if I shrink this down, I can't hold down shift while I'm doing this, but if I could, I'm gonna bet it's gonna line up. Let's see if we can't just do this here. Get him to fit over here.
Perfect.
Right? Now, let's be honest. There's a little bit of a gap here on the neck and the ears, not perfect, right? But it's in there, right? It's in there. And that's all you're trying to do with this Bargue method is just very quickly kind of see those angles, slice up space, and get something on there that is, resembling our figure, right? The next step we'd go through, I'm not going to do everything for you, but just like before, the next step here, I'm going to switch over and start thinking about the shadow. Right? And those shadows I'm just going to kind of place. So I can see there's a shadow kind of under his eye right there, so kind of a shape. This side of his nose is more in shadow. Socket here is all in shadow, right? And I can start placing all of these shadows, right? Kind of coloring them in, right? And kind of blending them out as we go along. Blend them out as we go along. And the more and more you start placing these shadows, the more three-dimensional it'll start to feel, right? Right? Let's see. Just put a little there. A whole bunch of business going on in his ear over here. He's got his little beardy. And obviously there's no detail in those lips quite yet. I would get to all the detail, lips, nose, everything we've talked about so far, right? But I can start placing these shadows. And very quickly you start to get a little bit more three-dimensional. You can kind of start to tell where the front versus the side of the face is, right? Once you get to this point, right? Once you get to this point, you've got a three-dimensional face that's representative of the figure you're actually trying to draw. Not an eyeball you've memorized, not a face you've memorized. You're actually drawing that person, right? And then with whatever time you have left over, right? Whatever time you have left over, then you can actually start kind of chiseling in and saying, okay, well, now I'm going to give him eyeballs. Well, how do I draw an eyeball, right? Now I want to give him lips. Well, how do I draw lips? And we just use, that's horrible, but we just use the knowledge that we already have to our advantage, right? Does that kind of help you visualize it a little bit? I'm not saying that you're masters, I'm not saying you're perfect at it, but we're going to be doing 4 different practice drawings today. I want you to at least, for one of them, I want you to at least try this Bargue method. You might be surprised how quickly and how well it works for you, right? Just imagine that virtual ruler. If you need one, grab a real ruler, pull it up, get that right angle, right? Get that, almost like a protractor. Get that angle, pull it down your paper, and draw the angle exactly as you see it. You're going to be really surprised how quickly this kind of comes together for you. Cool? Cool? Cool. All right, so we're just going to practice for the rest of the day.